My name is Cindy. This is my husband Jeff. This is Jacoby, Gavin, and the little one behind me, Zoe. She's hiding. We live in Elizabethtown, and we're here to share our story and to help spread awareness about pediatric cancer. Much of these statistics were already shared, but today in the United States, 46 children will be diagnosed with cancer. That's the size of 2 average classrooms. And tomorrow there'll be 46 more, and the day after that, and the day after that. I want to spread awareness because even as a nurse, I would only think about children with cancer when I'd see a St. Jude's commercial or, Penn State students out canning, raising money for the Four Diamonds Fund. That's until the day one of my children became one of 46. And just by looking at them, can you tell which one is currently on treatment for leukemia? Currently on treatment for leukemia. You can. Not all chemo makes you lose your hair. When the world of pediatric cancer became my reality, I learned how prevalent it truly is. Childhood cancer is not rare. There are at least 4 children in our school district that I'm aware of that have recently battled or are currently battling cancer. And that's just 4 that I know about. Childhood cancer is not caused by smoking, by drinking, by living 20, 30, 40 years of a bad lifestyle. It does not discriminate against gender, race, religion, or socioeconomic status. It doesn't matter if you live on a farm, in the suburbs, or in a city. It attacks our children and steals away their childhood and their innocence. Let me take you back about 3 years. Jacoby was 7. Gavin just turned 6 and was so proud to start kindergarten, and little Zoe was just 2 years old. And we were the typical family, going to the beach, going for ice cream, going to the park, ending our summer vacation with the E-Town Fair. And then during September 2012, I had taken Gavin to the pediatrician twice for 10 to 15 enlarged lymph nodes that I had found on the back of his head and neck and in his groins. And both times I was reassured that everything was okay. But my gut, my nursing knowledge, and most importantly, my mother's instinct told me that something was wrong. So on October 1st, 2012, I took Gavin for a second opinion. He had blood work drawn and a chest x-ray. And within just a few hours, the doctor had called and went over the abnormal blood work with me. I'm a nurse and I knew what this all could mean. I tried not to panic, but I did, and then I immediately went into denial. The doctor told us that she had contacted a physician at the Hershey Medical Center and we were to go there right away, that they were waiting for us, and they were. After we arrived at the hospital, Gavin had more blood work done. He had a spinal tap and a bone marrow biopsy. We spent the next 2 agonizing days waiting for results. At one point, we were told that his blood cells didn't look like typical leukemia cells and that mono could present this way, so we prayed hard for mono. Who prays hard for mono? But on October 3rd, 2012, my worst fear, my nightmare, became our reality. Dr. McGregor came into Gavin's room and spoke words that I will never, ever, ever forget. She said, "Gavin has T-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Leukemia. Cancer. My 6-year-old son has cancer." I couldn't believe the words that I was hearing. The shock is indescribable. Her words cut through my chest and literally stole the air that I breathed. My heart pounded in my ears, and my eyes burned with tears. I was afraid to speak, because if I opened my mouth, I knew I would only gasp for air. I've never felt so helpless or so terrified. I'm his mommy, and I can't kiss this and make it go away. I wanted to scream, to run away, but I sat there beside my baby, holding his hands. I needed to be brave for my son. I needed him to know that he was going to be all right. A few tears ran down my cheeks, but I was determined to be strong. Even though my whole world stopped spinning, the procedures continued for Gavin, and he began chemo the very next day. The first 28 days of treatment for leukemia is called the induction phase, and the goal was to be in remission at the end of that phase. Now, remission for blood cancers does not mean that treatment ends. For boys, they're treated for 3.5 long years, and for girls, 2.5. When Gavin finished the induction phase, he had another bone marrow biopsy to see if the chemo was working. And we were slapped in the face again when we found out he was not in remission. He still had leukemia cells in his bone marrow. He fell into the high risk for relapse category. The doctors gave us the facts, the statistics, the choices, and Jeff and I, we had some very hard decisions to make. We chose to pursue the aggressive arm of therapy, knowing that there was a very risky chemotherapy agent involved in this arm of therapy that was specific to the T cell, which is a little bit more rare, a little bit harder to cure, involved in that arm of treatment. And we knew that there would be side effects, but we chose to deal with the side effects as they come, because we have everything to lose. And having any regrets or what ifs is not an option when you're making a decision based on saving your child's life. But Gavin finally went into remission on February 18th, 2013. That was the day after Thon. And he has been cancer-free for 31 months. But like I said, it's a 3.5-year treatment, and due to the nature of the disease and the relapse rate, and his chemotherapy treatment will end February 12th, 2016, which is only 5 more months to go. The first 9 months of treatment were really intense. He was in the clinic 3 to 5 times every single week, from 4 to 8 hours every single time he was there. Entertaining a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old for that many hours is not fun. One of the chemo drugs that he had required him to have a 5-day hospital stay every other week for 2 months. Jeff and I both work, and you still have to manage this work and be in the chemo, be in the clinic, be in the hospital. It's very difficult. And Gavin now is currently on what's called maintenance therapy, which sounds easy, to maintain remission status, right? But it's not. On maintenance therapy, he still gets chemo pills every single day. He receives an IV chemo called vincristine every 4 weeks, which causes him to have severe pain in his backs and hips and thighs. And this is paired up with 5 days of high dose, and when I say high dose, I mean very high dose steroids. So he has the mood swings, the irritability, the hunger, the muscle cramps, in addition to the pain and nausea that he gets from the chemotherapy. Not easy. He gets a 20-minute breathing treatment, antibiotic breathing treatment in the pulmonary clinic once every 4 weeks to protect his lungs from pneumonia. He gets IV immunoglobulin once every 4 weeks because his body can't make his own antibodies at this time. And the immunoglobulin is what is antibodies from thousands of people that are put into one bottle, one $20,000 bottle, mind you, that he gets every 4 weeks. And once every 12 weeks, Gavin gets a spinal tap where they withdraw spinal fluid to check for leukemia cells, and then they inject chemo called methotrexate into his spinal fluid, so his brain is bathed in chemotherapy because leukemia cells tend to hide there. Gavin is on Lyrica for peripheral neuropathy. He also takes morphine when the pain is so bad he can barely walk. I give my child morphine on a regular basis. It hurts. Last summer, Gavin contracted parvovirus, also known as Phipps disease. It's a common childhood illness. But this caused him to require blood transfusions almost every single week. As his body would make new healthy blood cells, the virus would destroy them. And his little body couldn't fight the virus. And that's when he started on the IV immunoglobulin. It took 10 months for the virus to be finally gone from his body and for him to slowly get back up to the amount of chemo that he needs to be on. He also had several Metaport infections where he needed IV antibiotics at home 3 times. He'd carry an antibiotic pump in a backpack with a tubing in his chest, a needle in his chest in his Metaport, tubing hanging down into the backpack 24/7. And that tubing was at constant risk and made me nervous of him having his needle ripped out of his chest and needing to have a new one placed. He had to sleep with the backpack beside him. He had to sleep with a needle in his chest. And he needed to carry that backpack around, like I said, 24/7 for days or even weeks at a time. In July 2014, only 14 months ago, Gavin lay unresponsive in the ICU in septic shock. He had 106 fever. His heart pounded at 180 beats per minute for hours on end, and his blood pressure was slowly dropping. He needed to be started on a dobutamine drip to help his heart function more efficiently. I have never seen him so sick, and I feared for his life, and I never left his side. After that, he had his Mediport removed, and he had a new one placed. So, Gavin has had 19 admissions in the first 24 months of treatment. He's had 2 Mediport insertions, 6 chest x-rays, a CAT scan of his brain. Imagine convincing a 7-year-old to lay on a cold, hard table as they slide the table on his head into a CAT scan machine. It's pretty scary for an adult. Can't imagine what it was like for a 7-year-old. He's had 2 echocardiograms, 2 MRIs of his hips, knees, and ankles. He's gotten 10 different chemo drugs. He had an anaphylactic reaction to one of them. And once again, I was fearing he was going to earn his wings that day. The alternate treatment to that medication that he couldn't get was injecting painful, burning chemotherapy into both thigh muscles 24 times in a 6-month period. He would get it Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 2 weeks in a row, followed by a break. His legs were bruised. They were sore. The nurses taught him to wiggle his toes instead of jerking his knees back when they would inject the chemotherapy. Gavin was just 6 years old. He would cry and scream and beg me to save him. He'd say, "Mommy, save me, save me." I was saving him. I was holding him down, allowing strangers to inflict severe pain upon him so that he could get the medication he needed so that he could live. But how can a 6-year-old understand that? I often cried in silence, no tears, sobbing internally, not shedding a tear. But I had to be strong to carry on. Gavin had 20 blood transfusions, 6 bone marrow biopsies, and more spinal taps than I can count. He's endured nausea and vomiting, which he still vomits on a regular basis. He had complete hair loss. Kissing that bald head skin is something I will never forget. Change in his sense of taste, severe bone pain, muscle weakness, muscle cramps, peripheral neuropathy in his legs and feet, which he's on the medication for. He still gets pins and needles in his hands and arms on occasion. And he battles depression currently and anxiety, just like any adult being treated for cancer does. Most adults have not experienced the horrible things that Gavin has endured in his short life. Childhood cancer and side effects of treatment are real. It doesn't just affect the kids you see on commercials. It's in your neighborhoods too, and you may not even know it. It happens way too often. It happened to our family. It becomes a real-life nightmare every 36 minutes in the United States. But our family's lucky. I count my blessings every single day. Gavin is here. He is smart. He is caring. He is loving. He is funny. And we still get to have him and enjoy him and watch him grow. Over the past 3 years, I've personally known 5 precious angels who earned their wings way too young. And there have been many more that I know of, but did not have the honor or privilege to meet these heroes in person. My hope and my prayer is to increase the funding, which could decrease the number of precious children getting their wings way too soon, and to create better treatments with fewer side effects. No child should have to endure what these kids go through. Thank you for coming out and supporting this cause. Thank you.